Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Randy Carver. Joining me is Dan McGinnis. Fortunately, Tommy Walland is ill, could not join us tonight, but we're going to answer all the questions. If you do think of anything later, feel free to email us, and we will either get them to Tommy or answer them directly. But thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Randy. So the insurance world, as financial planners, there's all types of insurance, from life to health, long-term care, home, auto, personal, commercial. So specific to personal, commercial, or just generally, what factors should one consider when going to buy insurance?
It's a good question. The first thing I think is look at the agency. Agencies can represent a number of different carriers or companies. If you go directly to a single company, obviously you're going to get whatever they happen to offer. Whereas an agency can generally shop the insurance and try to find the best fit for what you're doing. Beyond that, it's the agent themselves. Is it someone that you feel comfortable with? Looking at the policies, and the agent should do a lot of this. We want to look at the ratings. Obviously, we want to look at the claim reputation. How likely is it they'll pay a claim? And we do want to look at the price. Although the decision really shouldn't be based solely on price. We want to make sure it's going to cover what it does. The other thing is, considering how often the agent or the agency is going to review your insurance program. Do they have other options that may make sense as time change? So there's quite a few factors to really think about.
Excellent. And then what are some common gaps in coverage you see both on the personal and commercial side of the business?
I think one of the biggest mistakes, again, is people just look at the price and they don't look at the details. In terms of gaps, one of the biggest gaps that we see on the personal side is a lack of an umbrella policy. Sometimes this is called excess liability insurance, but typically your car insurance or your homeowners has a limit of $250,000 to $300,000. And really in this world, that's just not enough. An umbrella policy will cover you for everything over that amount. So typically it's $1 to $5 million. The umbrella protection is relatively inexpensive. And frankly, one of the other things we see is even when people have an umbrella, sometimes the amount is too small. As their portfolio grows or their assets grow, they just don't have enough. Another thing is just having basic homeowners insurance instead of what's called an HO5. And this is a little bit technical, but something to talk to your insurance agent about. Another thing we see is people don't schedule specific items like autographs or jewelry, those types of things that need to be scheduled in your policy to make sure you have coverage. Water backup insurance is a big one, or sewer backup sometimes, which is not covered in a standard policy. Wind and hurricane insurance is often missing, depending where people live. And then the other thing is some of the more minutia type things, like service lines to your house, or perhaps even cybersecurity. And then another big one is, are you insured for replacement cost on your home? Homes cost a lot more to build today than they did in the past. So having adequate insurance for that. And then finally, making sure things like outbuildings, sheds, patios, pools, those types of things are actually covered as well. And then lastly, a lot of times people don't even think about flood or earthquake insurance. And believe it or not, here in Northeast Ohio, we do have earthquakes occasionally. So I think it's good to speak with your insurance agent, kind of go through the list of things. And that's important also to disclose everything. For example, if you're using your car to drive for Uber or DoorDash, to make sure your policy covers that. Because if you don't mention it, you may not be covered.
Oh, great. That's great information. And then generally, What's your recommendation as to how often policies should be reviewed?
We think generally every 1 to 2 years. I'd have the agent get together with you and go through the policy. Certainly different types of insurance may change. There may be other discounts available, or things may have changed. If you had an alarm system, for example. But again, I'd say every 1 to 2 years. I think that's important.
Great. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of natural disasters across the country, which may or may not have an impact on people in Northeast Ohio. What should someone expect to see in the current insurance market?
That's a really good question because, as we've heard, in some states like Florida, California before the fires, a lot of people actually got dropped. So insurance is becoming more expensive, and depending where you live, may become more difficult to get. Again, having that annual review is important to look at rate changes. Also, it's important to consider whether it's worth submitting smaller claims. If you submit a claim, it may impact your insurance. And so in some cases, even if something's covered, it may be more beneficial just to pay for it out of pocket.
Great. And shifting gears here a bit, as people age, life insurance may not be as critical as you do age in place. So there's a type of insurance called long-term care insurance. How essential is this as part of an asset protection plan?
It's a great question, Dan, because they say long-term care is actually the largest unfunded liability in the country. Most people have car insurance, homeowners insurance. The odds of collecting on that are far less than a long-term care claim. In fact, with a couple, there's a better than 70% chance one of them's going to collect. And so long-term care doesn't necessarily mean going into a nursing home. It may mean home care or assisted living. So traditional long-term care insurance can get expensive. And it's like car insurance. You pay the premiums may go up, and if you don't use it, the money's lost. There's another type of long-term care insurance called life long-term care insurance. And this is essentially a life insurance policy where the death benefit can be used to pay for long-term care. The nice thing about this is, number one, the premiums don't change. Number two, if you never use it, there's an income tax-free death benefit to your heirs. And number three, if you decide you don't need it, you can walk away. There's a similar type of insurance with annuities. A lot of times if somebody has an old annuity or old life insurance policy, we can flip it to one of these new policies to get the long-term care coverage. But long-term care coverage is something everybody needs to at least consider, even if they don't actually move forward with it. Because, again, it can be catastrophic for people.
Yeah, and in this digital world that we're living in, with more security risk, how does cybersecurity insurance potentially help protect both personal and business assets?
That's a really good question, because cyber threats like hacking, identity theft, and ransomware is a big one. It can cause a lot of financial damage, especially to businesses where hackers will lock up the computers. And we've heard about these big cases where money's paid. Cyber insurance would help pay that ransom, basically, or reimburse you. The other thing is it covers costs related to data breaches, fraud, and legal claims, really helping businesses protect themselves. There is cybersecurity for individuals, but it's usually on a much smaller scale. And it's usually something like a identity theft program, like Identity Guard or LifeLock. A company that purchases cybersecurity policy, it's a much broader policy with much higher limits as far as that goes.
Yeah, so in the day-to-day working with clients, what's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to insurance coverage?
I think the first thing is people may underestimate how much coverage they need, and they focus on price rather than quality. Again, leaving gaps, some of the things we've talked about, like liability or disability insurance is very important for people that are working or long-term care. So I think one, making sure you have the right coverage, and then two, making sure you actually have enough coverage for what what you're looking to insure.
Great.
I think the thing with insurance is you never really think about it until you need it. And again, this is where a good agent can help pinpoint areas that you might be lacking. On the investment side, as you said, with the long-term care, the life insurance, the planner, financial planner can assist with this. But it's definitely something worth looking at and being aware of.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I hear today to summarize is, regardless on the type of insurance, I think it makes sense to review at least once or twice a year.
Yep.
People are in different stages of life, whether they're young with a family, they're business owners, they have investment property. As you age, you're looking at health insurance to supplement Medicare, long-term care insurance. So regardless of the type, I think just like anything, it's important to review the risks and ensure that you have the proper coverages in place.
Yeah, I'd agree, 100%. So, and everybody's situation is unique. So again, if you have questions, feel free to email or phone us. And if we don't have the answer, we can certainly get it for you. We appreciate you joining us and look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.